Joining us now, Republican Congresswoman from Florida, María Elvira Salazar. She's a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee and is co-sponsor of a bipartisan and very comprehensive immigration bill known as the Dignity Act. And I want to start, I'll get to government funding in a minute, but I want to start there because I think people need to understand what you have put on the table in a bipartisan manner is a significant and comprehensive proposal. And it strikes me, and pieces of it are very innovative, if somewhat untested, compared to past proposals. When you see what the former president would like to do in a first term, it seems to run completely opposite to what you've put on the table, which you called the Dignity Act. How do you respond to that?
No, thanks for the opportunity. I think that elected officials are trying to fix the problem. And during his first term, President Trump had quasi-successful run with immigration. But the problem is that immigration is very complicated. Very complicated. And what I'm doing, and I thank you very much for praising my immigration reform law called the Dignity Act, is that it goes to what's practical. Seal the border, put order at the border, and then give those people who are already here, that don't have a criminal record, who have been here for more than 5 years, that are working, that want to pay taxes, that want to go home for Christmas. Just give them dignity. I'm not talking about path to citizenship. I belong to the largest minority in the country, the Hispanics. I represent the city of Miami. I know exactly what my people need. And my people need dignity, which is to work and live a dignified life in the promised land. The problem we have is that both parties have not understood what's needed. And on top of that, now you have a national security issue with the border open. 6 million illegals have come in the last 3 years. That's unsustainable. Right. On top of that, you have a business class that is telling you, hey, I need hands to work. I cannot find people to clean the toilets or to change the sheets in the hotels. So this is a very massive problem. Right. And the Dignity fixes it. It's just that we need political willingness from both parties. You
know, and I think to that point, it just seems that from a policy perspective, a pure policy perspective, what the former president and his team are putting on the table, again, doesn't seem to be taking the path that you're taking. I want to quote Stephen Miller, one of the president's top advisors, certainly his top advisor on immigration. You spoke to him back in 2021 in a closed-door meeting. There was some reporting about that where you guys exchanged your different positions. He says in the New York Times, Trump will unleash the vast arsenal of federal powers to implement the most spectacular migration crackdown. The immigration legal activists won't know what's happening. Is it possible to support Donald Trump as your party's nominee, if he gets that, given his position compared to yours?
I think you mentioned Stephen Miller, and I would love to sit with him and explain to him what life really looks like, what reality is all about. He may write everything, I'm sure he means well, but in reality, he doesn't get it. That's the theory. Now, what's the practice? It's like communism. It's fantastic what it says on the sheet of paper. Now, put it into practice is miserable. So, Mr. Miller, I would love to have a conversation with him and explain to him what reality looks like. Because you know what is one of the big problems that we have is the entrepreneurs, the small business owners, the big people that are in the private sector. They need hands. You have 8 million jobs available. Who's going to fill that? Right. The people who are already here, or also we need to fix the legal immigration so we can allow and accept those who want to come in from Ukraine, from Russia, the big minds that need to go to Silicon Valley or to the tech capital of the world, Miami, and work and pay taxes and be part of the promised land. That's the problem. It's the politicians. The political willingness to fix the problem is the only problem, not the policy. And that's what I wrote a pretty good bill called the Dignity Act. Right. It's good for everybody.
On a more micro problem that you guys are dealing with right now, and you have about 4 days to fix. There is the Speaker has put out a laddered proposal. There are no deep spending cuts. The defense portion is in the second half of that. Will you support it, and do you think enough Republicans can get behind it to pass it?
Sure. Listen, the best thing that could have happened to the Republican Party is Mike Johnson, because the job, a very big elephant, fell on his lap. And I know he's a decent guy. He's conservative, but he is reasonable. So no criticism to Mike Johnson. He's doing the best he can with the tools he has been granted. And I'm sure that from here to Friday, if my conference gets together and understands that we need to move forward, buy some time so we can do the appropriations and obviously reduce spending, because you know that it's impossible for this country to continue spending $6 billion a day.
Right.
And it's like, that's around $75,000 a second. Let's put it into perspective, right? We got to stop, rein that in so we don't have to borrow anymore and pay for that debt. So Johnson is going to do what's right, buy time, and then come together with the Dems and work in a bipartisan fashion, which is what the American people want. CNN, I'm sure that many Dems watch this station. Fox, many Republicans. It doesn't matter. We're all Americans, and we're all here in the promised land, and we want to continue living the American dream. That's why we're working for in D.C.
Congresswoman María Elvira Salazar, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
To you, sir.